Now, there are these guys who have been saying that Africa should unite, we should not have borders and everything. My friend, I think that is the worst thing you can ever do as Africa. Now, here's the thing. In Africa, there are only few countries that are very stable. Kenya is a democratic state. In Kenya, you can have elections. South Africa is a very stable country. They can have free and fair elections. They can say anything about the president and everything. Now, imagine mixing all these good countries, these few good countries, with a bunch of countries that have very many problems. You know, imagine mixing Kenya and Uganda, mixing Kenya and Tanzania. Uganda, where these guys only think Museveni is the only person who can never be a leader. They think Museveni is chosen by God to be their only leader. Tanzania, which the population thinks CCM is the only party that can come into power. Any other person who has different views should be beaten up. Opposition should be beaten up. They should be exiled and everything. Now imagine mixing a good country like Kenya with all these virtues with other countries like Uganda, Tanzania, or Rwanda. Imagine a country like Rwanda where even being an opposition to Kagame you're being declared as a political enemy. Now imagine mixing all these good countries, like one good country with all that mess. Imagine mixing a country stable like South Africa with countries like Zimbabwe and everything. You know, it doesn't make logic. Guys, if you really want to unite anything, unite your village. Some of you guys are talking of uniting Africa while you can't even coexist with your own neighbors. You can't even coexist with your own tribes, different tribes to you. You know, you guys have issues locally. For example, in Uganda, they have their own issues. In Tanzania, they're busy fighting the Maasais and everything. You know, guys, I think that whole nuisance of saying Africa should unite should just stop. Guys, let everyone stay in their own country, you know, because here's the thing. The moment you start mixing Kenya and other countries or South Africa with other countries that have very many problems, what you'll end up with is destroying this good country. These guys will be destroying Kenya. They'll be destroying South Africa, you know. And that is why, if you are very keen, you will notice that most of the Arab countries in North Africa are usually very keen to isolate themselves with Africa. They'll call themselves Africa, but they associate more with the Arab states, Europe, and everything. And it's because Africa has very many problems. These black countries have very many problems. Now, another example, imagine in Kenya, for example, and in South Africa, we guys eat normal food. But you have countries like Nigeria where these guys eat even snakes, even dogs. Now imagine mixing the population of Nigeria with Kenya together. All of a sudden our dogs will start disappearing. All of a sudden these guys will wipe even the indigenous species. Those guys eat anything that is moving. Now, the other thing, and this is very important, observe here in Africa how many diseases, weird diseases, have come out of countries like Kenya and South Africa and most of the stable countries. You'll realize that there are very few diseases that have come out of Kenya and South Africa. Now, observe countries like Nigeria, observe Liberia, observe Congo. You'll realize that those guys have some, all of a sudden from nowhere, you just hear there is this certain virus disease that has just come out. And the moment you do some detailed research, you realize that this disease is usually found in monkeys, gorillas, and you follow up and you realize these guys are even eating gorillas and monkeys. For God's sake, these guys eat anything. And that is why it is very important. Every person stays in their own country. If there is an outbreak of a disease, we control it as per that country. Let that country know we have this country, they have this disease. Those guys eat whatever and whatever. That is why they have it. And let's deal with it in that perspective. So that whole story of uniting Africa, uniting what? Guys, you go unite your own village and your own family and whatever. Don't bring the rest of Africa into all that, because countries in Africa that are very developed wouldn't want to find themselves in a situation in which they have to deal with some very weird cultures, weird behaviors that don't even exist in Africa. And I'm not afraid to say Kenya and South Africa are the most civilized countries in Africa, because the only difference with South Africa is just the issue of gun violence and everything. But other than that, that country is quite okay. There is Zambia also, it's quite fine. So guys, if your country has a problem, stop disturbing us with that noise of uniting Africa, because deal with the problems in your own country first, because what you want to do is use other countries to make everything and move over. No. That should stop.